Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com. We have a great show today, but before we get to that, I wanted to remind you of a few things. We have 2 great books on Amazon that will help you get the Big Four job that you deserve, and I've included links to those books in the show notes. Additionally, I wanted to remind everyone to make sure that they subscribe to this podcast to stay up to date on the latest Big Four news and career tips. Also, make sure to share the show with a friend if you get a chance. Lastly, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll include links to all our social media in the show notes. Thanks and enjoy the show. In yesterday's podcast, we covered a common question in the Big Four about how frequently you have to travel. Today, we'll be covering another popular question that many potential Big Four accountants have, and that is whether to choose tax or audit. In school, you typically choose accounting as a major without choosing a designation of which field you will go into. This changes after a few years as you get closer to graduation and as you start interviewing for internships at the Big Four. You have to choose which line of service you want to go into, and most people choose between audit or tax, even though there is another practice advisory, but we won't be talking about advisory today. Audit is obviously the most popular line of service, as it is the bread and butter of the Big Four accounting firms. But many people do actually spend some time deciding between audit and tax versus just going straight to audit. First, let's go over some reasons why people choose each line of service. Let's cover audit first. People choose audit for many reasons, and some people choose audit because they think it will allow them to be the most successful later on in their career. They think there are many more opportunities in audit than in tax, and they think that can be a CFO or CEO one day because of what audit has to offer. The common misconception is that in audit, you learn about the whole financial statements, so you learn everything there is to know about a company's operations. And this is true to some degree, but there are many problems with this, as I'll cover later. Now let's cover some reasons as to why people choose tax. People choose tax for many reasons, and some people choose tax because they think they will travel less than audit and they won't have to be at the client. And other people choose tax because they enjoy tax class in school. Another reason that people choose tax is because tax people make more money than audit professionals right out of school. Now let's go over some common misconceptions about each line of service. First, let's cover some misconceptions about audit. And many people think that they can automatically turn an audit career into instant success as an audit partner or become a CFO. But what people have to realize is that audit is a common choice in the Big Four because many people choose it. Therefore, you have more competition because you're competing against many more people than you would in tax. In order to differentiate yourself in audit, you have to stay in a position or an accounting firm for longer than you would in tax. Another misconception about audit is that you'll see the whole financial statements your whole career. And now this isn't true in audit. When you start out in audit, you're usually focused in one area, whether that's like investments or you do a corporate audit, which means you're solely focused on the headquarters of a company, or you're focused on the financial aspects or assets alone or receivables or payables. You focus in on one area and you don't necessarily see the whole financial statements when you first start out. You're usually very specialized and you're only focused in that area. And as an associate, you only work on that specific part of the financial statements. Now let's cover some misconceptions about tax. One common misconception about tax is that you'll have to travel less and that you'll have to interact with clients less. It just depends on the type of client you have, or it depends on where you work. You might have to travel more than an auditor, and you might have to interact with clients on a daily basis, depending on what kind of client you have. Don't choose tax just because you think you have to be less social and travel less. I know this is a reason out there why many people choose tax. And another misconception is that tax doesn't offer as many opportunities as audit. There'll be kids in school, there'll be colleagues telling you, tax, you just don't have the opportunities. Audit's where it's at. Again, there are less people in tax, which means there's less competition for better jobs. There are also many more specialties in tax. So if you become super specialized, you can have amazing opportunities in the tax line of service. Now, based on all this information, what is my recommendation for which line of service to go into? My recommendation is that you should pay attention to all of your classes in school and see which field of accounting that you like more. For tax, I would say that you should be more into research and writing memos, as you'll be conducting a lot of research in tax. Don't think that you'll just be doing tax planning in the tax line of service, though. You'll have to provide support for the tax provision of the financial statements, which means that you will still be doing some audit as a tax professional. Another thing that I would say about tax is that you have to like law. If you like the law and you like legal profession, you will like tax. This is a reason that many lawyers are tax professionals in the Big Four, and the most successful tax professionals are also lawyers. If you don't like law, legal research, and writing memos, then do not go into tax. Another thing that I would recommend for anyone thinking about tax is look into the specialties of tax, like state and local taxes, international tax, mergers and acquisitions, or federal tax. Learn a little bit about each of these specialties and see which one you'd like to specialize in, and that'll let you know whether you like tax and whether you want to pursue it as a career. If you want to go into audit, you have to realize it'll be a long road to the role as an audit partner or CFO. You'll first have to get good at filling out templates and checklists, and you also have to get very familiar with audit database software. You won't be learning as much right out of the gate, but if you stick with it for a number of years, then yes, you do have a chance to be a CFO or a controller, and you'll be able to achieve that high-level role that you've been thinking of. Audit does have many great opportunities. You just have to be willing to stay put and pursue that career. Another factor to consider is that auditors don't make as much as tax people, because tax people are seen as specialists by the Big Four. Now, the money does even out over the years, depending on your performance. You can obviously earn more money as an auditor if you end up as a CFO or an audit partner on a large client. It is also typically the audit partners that end up becoming the CEOs of the Big Four accounting firms. So which line of service is better, tax or audit? I can't give you a direct answer that's right for you. You need to figure out which is best for you based on your interests, which you can determine from school, and your ultimate goals. So if you want to be a CFO or a CEO of the Big Four, audit might be the best choice for you. But if you don't like audit, then don't go into an audit career. Figure out what you like and where that will take you in your career. Now, in order to get more Big Four career information and news, make sure to subscribe to this podcast. We are a growing podcast and a growing business. I would appreciate your help in growing. So please try sharing this with a friend and giving us a good review on iTunes to help us grow. I'll provide a link in the show notes where you can leave us a review on iTunes. And you can also contact us with any questions you might have about whether to choose audit or tax. And I'll include a link in the show notes where you can contact us as well. That's all we have for today. Thanks for listening, and have a good day.